It started with the scratching. I had just moved into my new house, a charming little cottage on the edge of the woods. It was perfect, or so I thought. But on the first night, I heard it. A faint scratching sound, coming from the attic. I told myself it was just a squirrel or a bird. But the sound kept coming, night after night, always at the same time, 3:15 a.m. After a week of sleepless nights, I decided to investigate. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed the narrow stairs to the attic. The air was thick with dust, and the floorboards creaked under my weight. The scratching stopped as soon as I opened the door. The attic was empty, except for an old trunk in the corner. It was covered in cobwebs, and the lock was rusted shut. I tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. That's when I noticed the symbols. They were carved into the walls, strange and intricate, like something out of an occult ritual. I didn't know what they meant, but they made my skin crawl. That night, the scratching returned. But this time, it was louder, more insistent. I climbed the stairs again, my heart pounding in my chest. The attic was dark, but I could see something moving in the shadows. It was tall and thin, with long, bony fingers and a face that was wrong. Its eyes were too big, its mouth too wide, and it was smiling a twisted, unnatural smile. I ran. I haven't been back to the attic since the night, but I still hear the scratching. It's faint, but it's there, always at 3:15 a.m. And sometimes, when I look out my window, I see the figure standing at the edge of the woods, watching me.
It was a rainy night when I first saw her. I was driving home from work, the windshield wipers struggling to keep up with the downpour. The road was empty, the kind of empty that makes you feel like you're the only person left in the world. That's when I saw her, a young woman, standing on the side of the road, soaked to the bone. She was wearing a white dress, her hair plastered to her face, and she was holding out her thumb, trying to hitch a ride. I pulled over. She climbed into the passenger seat, shivering from the cold. I handed her a blanket from the back, and she smiled a small, grateful smile. "Thank you," she said. "I've been waiting for hours." I asked her where she was going, and she gave me an address on the other side of town. It was out of my way, but I didn't mind. She seemed nice enough, and I wasn't in any hurry to get home. We drove in silence for a while, the rain pounding against the windows. Then she started talking. She told me about her life, her family, her dreams. She was a college student, studying to be a teacher. She loved kids, loved the idea of shaping young minds. But there was something off about her. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, and her hands were ice cold. She kept looking out the window, like she was waiting for something. We reached the address she had given me, and I pulled into the driveway. The house was dark, the windows boarded up, and the yard overgrown with weeds. "This is it," she said. I turned to say goodbye, but she was gone. The passenger seat was empty, the blanket neatly folded on the seat. The door was still closed, the windows still up. I got out of the car, calling her name, but there was no one there. I went back to the house the next day, hoping to find some answers. But the place was abandoned, the windows broken, the roof caving in. I asked around town, but no one had heard of the girl. Then I found the newspaper article. It was from 20 years ago, about a young woman who had gone missing on a rainy night. She was last seen hitchhiking on the same road where I had picked her up. Her name was Emily, and she was a college student, studying to be a teacher.
It was an ordinary day when I found the painting. I was at a flea market, browsing through the usual junk, old records, vintage clothes, and dusty furniture. That's when I saw it. A small, oil painting of a forest at night. The trees were twisted and gnarled, and in the background, there was a figure, a tall, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. It was creepy, but also strangely captivating. I couldn't look away. The seller noticed my interest and gave me a strange look. "That one's cursed," he said. "You don't want it," but I did. I hung the painting in my living room, right above the fireplace. It looked out of place among my modern decor, but I didn't care. There was something about it that drew me in. That night, I had the worst nightmare of my life. I was in the forest from the painting, the trees closing in around me. The figure was there, watching me from the shadows. I tried to run, but my feet were stuck in the mud. I woke up in a cold sweat. the sound of rustling leaves still in my ears. The next night, I heard a faint scratching sound, coming from the living room. I grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate. The painting was still there, but something was different. The figure was closer. It had moved from the background to the foreground, its glowing eyes now staring directly at me. I told myself it was just my imagination, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. The scratching returned, louder this time. I climbed out of bed and went to the living room, my heart pounding in my chest. The painting was gone. I searched the house, but it was nowhere to be found. Then I heard a low, guttural growl, coming from the attic. I climbed the stairs, my hands shaking as I opened the door. The painting was there, hanging on the wall, the figure now standing at the edge of the forest, its hand reaching out toward me. I haven't been back to the attic since that night, but I still hear the scratching. It's faint, but it's there, always at 3:15 a.m. And sometimes, when I look out my window, I see the figure standing at the edge of the woods, watching me.
Well, how was that? Like and subscribe for more scary stories. Don't forget to turn on notifications, share the video and comment how much you like these stories.